Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the extraordinary life of Marvel's Sauron. Picture this, a young boy on an expedition near Antarctica with his father. The wilderness stretches endlessly around them. This is Karl Lykos, and his life is about to change forever. While exploring caves in Tierra del Fuego, Karl discovers a girl his age, Tanya, being attacked by something impossible. Living pteranodons, flying reptiles from the age of dinosaurs. What would you do? Run? Freeze? Karl does neither. He rushes in with nothing but a stick, driving the prehistoric creatures away. But not before one sinks its teeth deep into his flesh, tearing through skin and muscle. The bite should have killed him. Instead, it transformed him. Dr. Anderson, Tanya's father and a physician on the expedition, saved Karl's life using his medical skills. But the pteranodon bite altered Karl's genetic structure in ways science couldn't explain. Therefore, Karl developed an insatiable hunger, not for food, but for life energy itself. He needed to drain the vital force from other living beings just to survive. His first victim? His beloved dog, Jaeger, drained of energy by a simple touch. Karl watched in horror as his pet weakened before his eyes, and in that moment, he understood. He had become something not quite human. Karl grows up with this terrible secret, learning to take just enough energy from people to survive without killing them. Despite his condition, he falls deeply in love with Tanya, the girl he saved years ago. But Tanya's father refuses to let them marry because Karl lacks financial means. Therefore, Karl vows to become wealthy and respected, to prove his worth not just to Dr. Anderson, but to himself. He throws himself into his studies with fevered determination, eventually becoming a hypnotherapist, a doctor who could heal minds. Behind the respectable facade of his Manhattan practice, though, he builds specialized devices to safely drain energy from his patients, feeding his growing hunger without killing anyone. With each passing year, his need intensifies. His eyes grow hollow with the effort of containing the monster inside him. Years later, Karl meets Professor Charles Xavier, founder of the X-Men. Together, they work on a mysterious Project Mutant. Xavier discovers Karl's secret ability, but keeps it hidden from his students. Everything changes when the X-Men bring an injured Havoc to Karl's office. The young mutant is barely conscious, his body crackling with cosmic energy after a battle with the Sentinels. Help him, Cyclops pleads, not knowing he's delivering a feast to a starving man. For the first time, Karl absorbs energy from a mutant, and the results are catastrophic. The power surge doesn't just feed him, it triggers his complete metamorphosis. His skin hardens and takes on a greenish hue. His features elongate into a reptilian snout. Fingers fuse and stretch into clawed wings. His eyes glow crimson with hunger and power. In this terrifying new form, Karl names himself after Tolkien's Dark Lord, Sauron, and his personality twists into something evil and predatory. His voice, once soft and compassionate, becomes a rasping screech that sends chills down the spines of even the battle-hardened X-Men. The story of Sauron isn't just about a monster. It's about Karl Lykos, trapped in a nightmare cycle of transformation and regret. When he absorbs mutant energy, he becomes Sauron, predatory, powerful, and without remorse. When that energy fades, he returns to his human form, horrified by what he's done. After one particularly vicious transformation, Sauron flies to the Andersons' home, intent on killing them. But something in Tanya's terrified eyes penetrates the monster's consciousness. Therefore, Karl reasserts control just enough to flee before committing murder. He escapes to Tierra del Fuego, back to where it all began. Sitting in his father's abandoned cabin, the weight of what he nearly did crushes him. He can still see Tanya's face, still hear her screams as she recognized his voice coming from the monster's beak. Days pass. His body weakens. Just as death approaches, Tanya finds him, having followed his trail with the X-Men close behind. Her face shows not fear but concern. "Karl," she whispers, reaching for him, but the hunger is too strong. He feels it rising at her approach, the need to drain her, to consume her life force. With his last strength, Karl runs, fleeing into the wilderness, eventually plummeting over a cliff's edge into the mists below. The X-Men search, but find no body. They assume he's dead, a tragic end to a tragic life. But Karl Lykos survives the fall. Therefore, he finds himself in the Savage Land, a hidden prehistoric jungle in Antarctica where dinosaurs still roam. A lost world preserved from Earth's distant past, hidden from modern eyes. Picture the Savage Land, lush primeval jungles teeming with dinosaurs, primitive human tribes, and ancient dangers. Here, surrounded by creatures from Earth's distant past, Sauron finds a twisted kind of home, a place where his pteranodon form doesn't seem so out of place. For a time, Karl manages to suppress his transformation, living among the humans of the Savage Land. But when he rescues an unconscious Iceman from hungry pterodactyls, he must drain the X-Man's mutant energy. Therefore, Sauron emerges once more, his wings casting a dreadful shadow over the prehistoric paradise. With each appearance, his powers grow more formidable. Energy absorption through mere touch, draining victims until they collapse. Hypnotic powers that can control minds, bending others to his predatory will. Fire breath hot enough to melt steel and scorch stone. Superhuman strength that rivals even the strongest X-Men. Flight capabilities that make him nearly impossible to capture. For a brief, shining moment, it seems Karl might find peace. The X-Men's beast develops a medication that can satiate his energy hunger without requiring him to drain others. With this chemical salvation, Karl returns to civilization and reunites with Tanya. But happiness for people like Karl Lykos is fleeting in the Marvel Universe. Therefore, when the evil mutant Toad appears with a scheme to rebuild the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Karl becomes a target. Using a device of his own design, Toad traps both Karl and Tanya, giving him no choice but to feed on her energy. Karl fights the compulsion with everything he has, sweat beads on his forehead. Blood vessels burst in his eyes from the strain. But the hunger, amplified by Toad's device, proves too strong. Karl watches in horror as his own hands reach for Tanya's face. Her eyes widen in fear, then understanding, then forgiveness. The transformation that follows is more complete than any before. As Tanya's body crumples to the floor, Sauron emerges in all his terrible glory. But this time, there is no Karl Lykos personality fighting for control. In that moment, as Tanya's life fades and Sauron ascends, Karl loses everything he ever fought for. As a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Sauron becomes even more dangerous. His predatory instincts are now unfettered by human morality or hesitation. He targets the young mutant team X-Force, seemingly killing their leader Cannonball before being forced to retreat. His subsequent attacks on the X-Men grow more vicious, more calculated. In one brutal encounter, he kidnaps Havok, the very mutant whose energy first transformed him, and places him in an energy-transferring machine along with Cyclops. The combined power of the Summers brothers mutates Sauron even further. He grows larger, stronger, his pteranodon features more pronounced. Wings that could once barely carry him now create windstorms with each beat. Claws that could once only slash now tear through reinforced steel. What makes Sauron truly fascinating isn't just his powers or his striking appearance. It's the constant war between Karl Lykos, the healer who wants to help others, and Sauron, the predator who sees humans and mutants as nothing but food. This internal conflict manifests most dramatically when Phoenix tries to engage Sauron on the astral plane, the realm of pure thought and consciousness. There, she doesn't find the monstrous Sauron in control, Karl Lykos, trapped in the prison of his own mind. The mental landscape she encounters is a nightmarish amalgamation of Lykos's memories. The Antarctic expedition, his father's cabin, his medical office, all warped and twisted around a central abyss that pulses with hungry red light. He's down there, Karl tells her, pointing to the abyss. Sauron, always hungry, always waiting. Phoenix offers to help him fight the monster, to restore balance to his fractured psyche. But Karl knows there's only one way to end the cycle, Therefore, he makes a suicidal leap into the abyss of his own mind, taking his hated alter ego with him. The result is unexpected. Sauron's body remains, but his mind regresses to an animalistic state. The sophisticated villain becomes little more than a beast, operating on instinct alone. For a time, both Karl and Sauron seem gone, leaving only a shell behind. In Marvel Snap, Sauron's ability to remove the abilities from all ongoing cards in your hand and deck is actually a clever representation of some aspects of his comic character. How it correlates with the comics: energy draining. In the comics, Sauron drains life energy from others. His snap ability, metaphorically, drains the abilities from other cards, which is thematically similar. Power nullification. While Sauron doesn't explicitly nullify others' powers in the comics, his ability to hypnotize and control minds could prevent opponents from using their abilities effectively. This aspect is somewhat represented by removing card abilities. Thank you for taking this cosmic journey with me. Who do you want me to cover next? Let me know in the comments. Until next time.